Well, hello everyone. This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. Welcome to our backstage event. We are exploring STEM programs. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with what STEM is, essentially it's a designation that allows a graduate to apply for 2 additional years of optional practical training, OPT, which means that if you're an international applicant and you come to a school and do a STEM track or a STEM MBA, you can apply for a STEM related job and pretty much be guaranteed 3 full years on a work visa that also gives you at least three attempts in the H-1B lottery. So this is something that makes MBA programs and specialty master's degrees in many cases in the United States much more favorable for international applicants. And truth is, it's not only for internationals because domestic students can benefit from the additional analytical training that occurs in a STEM program. And increasingly, companies are very much looking for people who have a little more of an analytical bent today because of the massive amounts of information that technology now provides, and the attempt by many companies to get that information and make it more usable for decision making. So today we have 4 terrific schools. All of them have STEM tracks, STEM concentrations, STEM specializations that allow for a deeper dive into the analytics and allow for graduates to apply for this extra OPT time, which is a real benefit of the programs. So let me introduce our schools and our representatives from them. We have Duke University's Fuqua School of Business, Allison Jameson, the Assistant Dean of Admissions. Welcome. We have from Babson College, Catherine McVeigh, the Associate Director of Graduate Admissions. Welcome, Catherine. We have from Fordham, Lawrence Murray, friend we've seen before, Senior Assistant Dean of Graduate Admissions. Welcome from New York. And from William and Mary, we have Amanda Barth, the Executive Director of MBA Admissions. So welcome to all of you. Let's start with the basics. Catherine, how long have you had a STEM designated program, and what shape does yours take?
Yeah. So we started becoming interested in STEM education about 5 years ago. We started a program in a Master of Science in Finance that was STEM eligible. About a year after that, we started a business analytics program. So we've always kind of been playing in this area. So last year, we finally decided to have 2 STEM concentrations for our MBA as well. Our faculty teach across all of our programs, so they were really excited to have this. It lives within our MBA, both full-time and part-time. Our program is 45 credits overall. You have 30 credits of electives. This is boring, I know, but the concentration for STEM is about 12 of those credits. You'll still have a chance to do other things for us, but that is a very specific track for us. And we have it in analytics and machine learning and quantitative finance as well.
Great. Amanda, how about you?
Yes, thank you, John. We launched our STEM designated programs in 2017, starting with the Masters of Science in Business Analytics. And then in 2018, we were able to expand the offerings to our Master of Science in Accounting and our full-time MBA. And within the full-time MBA, we have 2 specializations, Business Analytics and also supply chain management, that are currently STEM designated. And we are in the final months of approving a specialization in finance as well. There are also 2 dual degree opportunities. You can do an MBA, MSBA, and also an MBA, Master of Accounting, which are both STEM designated.
Right. Wow, a lot of options there. And Lawrence, what about Fordham?
Yeah, thanks for having us, John. I'm excited to be here. We've been playing in the STEM field for more than 10 years. We have a portfolio of great specialized master's programs. And over the last couple of years, we've been integrating some of that content upstream into our full-time and our part-time MBA programs. So in both of these programs, we have 3 STEM concentrations, one in fintech, one in information technology, and the third in accounting technology analytics.
All makes sense. And Allison, at Duke, you have what you call an MSTEM track. How does that work?
That's right. Yeah, our MSTEM track, that stands for Management, Science, and Technology Management, which is a certificate program within the full-time MBA. So the students will pursue that either on its own or in conjunction with another concentration at Fuqua. And you can choose to take that MSTEM along a number of different paths to include operations, strategy, marketing, finance, healthcare. So it's very flexible. And the first class of the full-time MBA that had the option to pursue MSTEM was the class of 2018. But prior to that, we did also, as my colleagues here as well, have a master's in business analytics, which was STEM designated a few years before it came to the MBA program, which is really what we were able to sort of build upon to bring that to the MBA program.
So Allison, tell me what the major advantages are of taking a STEM designated program, and what kinds of things are floating out there that we might be able to correct because of misinformation or whatever.
Yeah, I think that the big advantage is, I mean, so many companies are looking for people to come in with these analytical skills, the data analytics, working with big data, drawing conclusions from large sets of data. And this is a very clear way to signal to employers that you have that skill to bring with you. I think that's sort of at the base level, but you're combining that with the very soft skills and general management approach of a general MBA. So you're bringing those hard data skills together with the management, the teamwork, and the leadership skills that come from the general MBA. And then, of course, as you mentioned at the beginning, John, for international students who are looking to work in the United States after graduation, the additional OPT, allowing them to stay in the US for 3 years, can be a huge benefit. So I think those are really the differentiators. And it does depend somewhat on what your career goals and what your career path is, how you might best leverage the skills and the opportunities that the STEM designation brings.
Right. Now, Lawrence, usually you have to apply to make use of this above and beyond the additional analytical skills that you would have. To make use of it for a work visa, you have to apply for a STEM-related job. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
What kind of STEM-related jobs are there for MBAs?
I think it runs the gamut. I think when you're looking across all sectors and industries now, most functions have some sort of data analytics component to it. So if I'm thinking about our accounting technology analytics track, you've got, data analytics, financial statement analysis. You've got folks that are doing valuation of companies using artificial intelligence and machine learning. So it's a wide variety of different functions that have integrated the data, the analytics, data visualization, storytelling into it. So I think it's across a wide spectrum of activities.
Yeah. And, a lot of times you might think ordinarily that these are very quantity jobs. The truth is that because technology pervades everything, and because what technology has done is built mountains of data that needs to be sorted through and made useful for real decision making, pretty much most of MBA jobs really need people who are skilled in figuring all this stuff out. So Amanda, I know that consulting firms, for example, like STEM designated people too.
That is absolutely right, John. And what we're seeing is that the STEM opportunity is also reinventing the overall value of the MBA in industry. And we work with consulting firms here at William & Mary, such as Deloitte, IBM, EY, KPMG, PwC, and more, to really prepare our students for those high-level consulting opportunities in big data analytics and also in the tech sector. So we're really finding that the opportunity to pursue the STEM designation is sort of reinventing the relevance of an MBA to the hot jobs and the hot marketplace in North America and around the world today.
I like that. And Catherine, I'm a poet. Okay, I majored in political science and English. Does that mean I should be afraid of schools that have STEM options?
No, of course not. In fact, we want you because of that. I majored in classical studies, so I very much understand where you're coming from. But the ability to look at data and analyze it, and more importantly, be able to communicate that, which is the English major's wheelhouse, is a really vital skill to have. So we tell all our students when they're dipping their toes into analytics and finance that it's okay that you don't necessarily have a background in numbers. We want the critical thinking, and more humanities focused majors really give that to you.
Yeah, exactly. Now, it's clear that the way business is going demands more analytical skills and more talent at taking large bits of data and numbers and making them useful. But the stampede towards STEM designation has occurred in large part because of the difficulty and uncertainty over the H-1B visa and getting it. And it's especially attractive to international applicants and students. So I'm wondering what impact in terms of international students has your STEM designation had in the marketplace? Lawrence?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been a big proponent of STEM education long before it was popular in the MBA world. In one case, the MBAs have been really slow to sort of catch up to the rest of the disciplines around STEM. But for us, as you mentioned early on, it definitely gives those international students the opportunity to pursue, their career goals and aspirations. It makes it a little bit easier for them to do that. And it's less of a burden coming in. When you're taking your whole life from Southeast Asia and coming to someplace in the US, there's already a high level of anxiety. Getting a job and getting an internship only adds to that. The STEM designation really does provide, I think, a level of confidence in the student about their ability to compete well for those internships and those full-time jobs. And I also think it's a level of certainty, knowing that there's a lot more employers who are looking for employers that are going to sponsor students either for CPT, OPT, or H-1Bs, and that they feel that they have a stronger fighting chance to get those coveted jobs.
Yeah, Allison, I'm sure you have found the same, although I would imagine that most of the people who take the STEM track at Duke are international students, are they not?
They are. They are. It's usually about a third of the class that are choosing the MSTEM certification. And of that third, almost 80% are international students. And that's similar to what we see in our applicant pool. So you can choose to add MSTEM at Duke at any point during your career, but the people who indicate at time of application that they're interested is also about 80% of international students. So the interest level is very high. And it is, I think, a lot of those that are actually graduating with the designation are international students as well.
Now, people who want that designation, when they apply, I guess they check a box, as you just indicated. Are the admission requirements for folks who want to pursue a STEM designation different than they are for the general pool, or are they the same?
For us, they're the same, and it is, as you said, it's just an indication of this is what I'm intending to do. We will look to see then through the rest of the application if you've indicated an interest in MSTEM, are you incorporating that into your essays and your career goals so that you're telling a cohesive story. But across the application, the requirements are going to be the same whether or not you're looking at the MSTEM.
And is that true, Catherine, at your school?
So we don't have a checkbox. We actually don't ask them on the front end of the admissions application portion. We consider them like everybody else. We do talk about it when we're doing our interviews and our conversations with them because we want to get to know them and what they're hoping for. But that's really something that we help them figure out when they start working with our academic services team. They really want to know what their pathway is, and we start planning that out with them.
Right. And Amanda, how about at William and Mary? Do you look for specific things for those who want to take advantage of a STEM track?
We're actually very similar to Duke in our process in that we are open-ended. And I think this has been one of the changes that I've seen in the last decade in industry, where we're relying more on our graduate career management center support team to counsel our students on how best to use their pre-MBA academic history and their professional experience to narrow down a path. I feel like programs are doing a much better job on the career counseling side and helping students to make more focused decisions on their specializations before they dive too deep. So a lot of counseling on our end, which does include an assessment of quantitative skills, of programming, skill sets and different factors, but a very guided process that students will enjoy at William and Mary.
Right. And Lawrence, at Fordham, do you look at applications from people who want to pursue a STEM designation differently or not?
We don't. We're very similar to my colleague at Babson. We don't ask the students in the application process. This is something we talk a lot about it, and we talk about the pros, the cons. We talk about sort of the slight differences their academic track academic experience may be in those STEM pathways. But we really rely heavily on our academic advising partners to work with the students and allow the students to make that decision really anywhere between, when they start and when they have just one semester left. It's viable to tack on one of these concentrations.
Right. Now, I know some schools have had to make some significant changes in their programming to get STEM designation, and other schools haven't had to do much at all. Amanda, at William and Mary, you've made some tweaks here and there to get the designation. Could you explain, like, what you actually did in terms of programming, what a student could expect?
Absolutely. And to use the word programming, that's really where we focused a lot of the energy. So we had to bring curriculum up to speed that teaches some of the essential programming tools. So things like Python, R, Tableau, SQL, Spark. Those are some of the tools of the trade that we've really been able to develop more robustly here.
Now,
But we're
Andy,
also
you're scaring me with those words.
I'm a little intimidated.
Coder if I come to your school?
At least for a partial bit of the business analytics specialization. But again, then we round those out with the other soft skills that are so important for an MBA to possess. So we really find that balance here.
Right. Now, Catherine, did you have to make some significant changes at Babson for your STEM programs?
We actually didn't. We had a lot of these classes already in our elective portfolio. Our faculty, as I said earlier, teach across all of our programs at Babson. So some of these classes existed in our Master of Business Analytics. Some of them were in our finance program, but a lot of them were all in the MBA elective portfolio anyway, because we really like our students to intermingle across the programs. So
Right.
we were able to just kind of pair them differently. We did get approval from our board, but other than that, we didn't have to do very much. We were very lucky in that regard.
Right. And Allison, I remember, first speaking with Bill, your dean, about the introduction of this. And I believe that, you had to really dig in and examine the curriculum to come up with the MSTEM track and change a few things, is what I vaguely recall. Is that right?
Well, we've long had a concentration in decision sciences, which
Right.
has a lot of sort of the basic fundamentals that you'll use in any MSTEM track. I think for us, for the development of it, the faculty were there, the courses were there. It was, consulting with faculty and with employers to say, how do we best put this together into a menu of electives that still allow the flexibility that we like our students to have to go down multiple paths, but to keep the decision models base, the business analytics, the big data piece. How does that work into the already existing curriculum? So we spent our time to do that so that we felt that it was, a good quality offering, but it was really pulling together existing resources to bring it all into the MSTEM as we know it today.
Yeah, and you made an important point. It's not like business schools have never taught analytics.
Right.
We used to call it decision sciences, and now it's
Right.
become data analytics, business analytics. It's the same thing with management, which in many cases is now referred to as innovation or entrepreneurship. So these things evolve and they become
Exactly.
more apparent, and the knowledge in them changes and becomes more up to date, and that's what we're really seeing now. Lawrence, at Fordham, what changes, if any, had to be made to your curriculum to satisfy the regulators of STEM designated program.
And there are lots of regulators. You know, we had a long history again of STEM designated master's programs. So we already had the foundation. Again, for us, we have a STEM designation in fintech, one in information technology, and one in accounting technology analytics. And the foundations for those had been built out in the specialized master's program for quite some time. So the internal sort of curriculum review had already been done. We upgraded the course a little bit, made them a little bit more tailored, customized for the MBA population, and then had a series of review sessions with faculty and the internal auditors to make sure that we dotted all of our I's and crossed all of our T's, and we're able to roll these out. But we were very fortunate because most of the architecture for this had already existed in our specialized master's programs.
Yeah, and those 3 tracks at Fordham naturally lend themselves to STEM designation because by their very nature, they're more analytical and more quantity. Yeah. So we have just gone through in America an election, and it needs to be said that the popularity of STEM tracks and STEM MBAs, to some degree, is part of the movement toward more analytical thinking, more a greater demand from corporations for analytical skills, but it's also a function of an administration that where we've seen a lot of anti-immigration rhetoric and where there's greater uncertainty over the H-1B work visa for international MBA graduates. So I'm wondering, Amanda, if you think things are going to change dramatically with a Biden administration.
Here's hoping. We are all education and industry professionals who greatly support the internationalization of our country, and we want to be a global player. And the only way we can do that is to bring talent into the country, to train and educate our talent, and to put it to work. So we are very strong proponents of the global perspective. And I am very hopeful that with the change in direction, there will be new hope. And I also hope that there'll be a different vision for immigration overall. We don't want to put every global candidate in a STEM category just for the sake of having an extended OPT. We still want candidates to have the opportunity to remain in North America and to work in the United States regardless of their degree. So it's my hope that there's very radical change in the way that we think about awarding visas to those individuals who've invested in an American education. And I hope that business schools will continue to bond together to attract that talent and to provide opportunities with corporate partners after the fact.
Yes. And Allison, you're dean as chair of GMAC, the Graduate Management Admission Council, has been very active on the political front, frankly, in organizing other business schools and deans to have a more open view of immigration and the whole student and work visa issue.
Yeah.
Do you think there's going to be a change that will impact STEM education as a result of the change in administrations?
I mean, I think I could not agree more with everything that Amanda said. And like you said, Bill Boulding has been very vocal and very much in a leadership role of sort of organizing the business school community in an open letter to the government to say, this is a highly valuable population, not just for business schools, but for the United States and for the world. And that mobility issue has been a primary focus of his for the last several years. So I am also hopeful that we will have more open opportunities for international students. And as Amanda said, both within STEM and without. I think it does give a lot of options, but for those that's not an interest, we still want them to have opportunities to pursue those passions and not be forced into a path that may not be their desired path.
Yeah, true. And I think we should expect to see a more open attitude about immigration, both student visas and work visas from this new administration. But immigration law in the United States is very complicated, very challenging. The H-1B system of lotteries has been somewhat disappointing and frustrating for many people over many years. These things don't get unraveled quickly. So STEM designation, I think, to your mind, should be still an important part of the puzzle that really helps international applicants feel more confident that they can land a job in the United States when they graduate and have that job for 3 years and have multiple attempts at the H-1B visa lottery. Now, this has been an unusual time, obviously, because of the pandemic. At most schools, there's been a decline in the international contingent in their fall cohorts. I'm wondering if you could tell me, Lawrence, what impact COVID and the pandemic has had on your international enrollment this coming fall and the diversity of that class.
Yeah, actually, I'm very proud to say that our numbers went up significantly. So we brought in a very large full-time MBA class, and the distribution of that class between international and domestic students was only a little off from where it was before, but we maintained a very strong diversity in that 30% or so of students that were international. And so, I think, people weren't quite sure what international students were going to do, because many of them were facing, do I go to school? Do I do this online? Do I defer? We had a record number of deferrals, but I'm really proud of the students who stuck with us and that are going down this journey with us to blaze new trails as we sort of map out what the new normal will be in graduate management education. And, we're fortunate to live here in New York City, where, we have a lot of opportunities for students to take part in some of the activities that are helping reshape New York City and sort of bring New York City back to, again, what a new normal will look like. So I'm excited about what the future looks like under the new administration. I'm excited about getting the opportunity to engage with more domestic students. We were really excited about the increase in the number of domestic students, and that really has reshaped, the on-campus or virtual experience, how we engage with students, because more of them are domestic. So I'm excited about what the future looks like.
Yeah, and Catherine, how has the pandemic impacted the diversity of your newest classes?
Yeah, so I think it depended on the program. Our full-time MBA, we are very international. We always have been. We have a very large commitment to the international community. And there were certain populations that, based on the pandemic in their country, they couldn't join us this year. So like Lawrence, we did have a lot of deferrals this year, specifically our friends in India. They had a really hard summer. But a lot of them are coming back. We've been talking a lot, so that's great. In terms of enrollment, it's pretty much where it was before. But we tried to be as understanding as we could, because no one's ever experienced this before. I will say that in programs like our finance program, actually our STEM designated programs, we did still see a very strong uptick of students getting here. The H-1B visa issue, I think, probably has something to play in that as well. But we're trying to do everything that we can to really support our international students in an uncertain time.
Yep. Allison, what the shape of your incoming MBA class this fall? What did it look like in terms of international student enrollment?
Yeah, we actually we held pretty steady year to year, with about 38% of the class being international. But similar to Lawrence and Catherine, we did see more deferrals than we have seen in past years. But they were fairly split between international and domestic students, and a much smaller population chose to defer than what we were expecting. I think because, back in March and April, we all thought we'd be done by July. And as things started to sort of demonstrate that that wasn't going to be the case, we just kept lines of communication open and told people, this is what our plan is going to be. This is how it's going to work. So we did have international students who opted to start with the virtual classroom. India was a difficult one, as Catherine mentioned, but actually all of the students who matriculated are now in the US. They may have started out in India, but they're now here. So there were certainly some challenges along the way, but I think, as with everybody, I think it was perhaps surprisingly still a very good year in admissions, and I appreciate the flexibility. And the students that are doing this in the hybrid approach, I mean, this is like, talk about being bonded through, forged by fire. Like this is a, like, we are all in this together. So I don't think it has taken away from the experience. It's been different than what people expected, but people were still willing to be innovative along with us and give it a try. And I think it's going really well. We've been really, really pleased with how this fall has played out and how it's continuing to go.
That's great to hear. And just to put a little context around this, we saw a situation where test centers had closed, embassies shut down, so it was more difficult to apply for a student visa. There was a lot of uncertainty over what the format would be, whether it would be hybrid, completely online, or if in fact there'd be many in-person, face-to-face classes. And then there were travel restrictions, and international mobility was dramatically curtailed because some countries, frankly, wouldn't allow people in, or allow you to leave. So all of these factors led to probably a lot more deferments than typically occur in any given MBA class. And so the next question is an obvious one. All of you have deferred international students. Does that mean that when you enroll your next class, these people will automatically roll in, and therefore there'll be fewer seats available, making this season, along with what is expected to be a surge in applications, one of the most competitive seasons ever to get into your MBA programs? Amanda?
Yes, John, we certainly experienced with some of our global candidates who requested deferrals. They were actually some of our global corporate sponsored candidates because the companies couldn't take the liability of sending an employee to the United
Sure.
States due to COVID. So we
Yep.
are retaining those seats. And I would couch it by saying, yes, it will be competitive. And yes, we are all experiencing a slight uptick in applications due to the change in the economy. But I would also encourage candidates, because I feel like many B schools are working very closely with applicants. Their doors are open. They're encouraging the MBA or other programs as the best use of time right now during a COVID reality. So I feel like there's no better time. Yes, it might be a little more competitive, but I would imagine we'll all agree that we would encourage candidates to seize the opportunity and to go for advanced education during this time of uncertainty. There's not a better time to go for your advanced degree.
Yeah, definitely true. Allison, do you see this as one of the more competitive admission seasons for MBAs?
Well, I do think when we look, like I said, the number of deferrals that we had was smaller than we were expecting, and we have enough flexibility in the class size that I do not anticipate the deferrals impacting our admission rates across our entire applicant pool. So, that part, we were aware of it. I think you'll kind of hear from a lot of business schools, like, we know this year was unusual, and a lot of schools are making the effort to alleviate that, or going with slightly larger classes, or making different, space use plans and things like that to allow for greater flexibility of where students are actually sitting when they're in class and things like that. So I think that we want to encourage, like Amanda said, that this is the right time. So the deferrals themselves are not going to impact at Duke our admission rates. We are seeing more people interested in coming back to business school, and I think that's going to be industry wide. And I think just for applicants to keep in mind that just gives you, there's plenty of opportunity. Keep your options open. There are lots of great schools. You maybe want to apply to one or two extra schools than maybe you had in the past, but it's not, I don't think we're at the point of like, oh gosh, I shouldn't apply because I'm not ever going to get in. We haven't shifted that much. We're not up 500% or anything like that. It's modest increases that I think are exciting for the diversity of experience and backgrounds that we'll be able to bring into the classroom.
Yeah, and I should point out to everyone, because most of the people who will be watching this will be international applicants, because those applicants are most interested in STEM education. Everyone should know that American business schools want a highly diverse class, a class that's diverse in every possible way. And the cultural melting pot in any given MBA cohort is essential to the quality of the education that's delivered. And so a lot of schools, some were able to maintain their international cohorts of a similar size. Many were not. And those that weren't actually are very much in the mind that, boy, we got to get back to where we were, if not better. So the next question I want to ask all of you is, what kind of support services, what kind of help do you give international applicants and students to make them feel more at home, make them feel more comfortable, help with whatever transitions they have to deal with in coming from a foreign country and maybe coming to America for the first time. Lawrence?
Yeah, that's a great question. We have a wide range of activities. While the students are in the application process, our Office of International Students and Scholars assist the students by answering any questions that they might have about the process by which they apply for their student visa, completing the AFCO, all of the steps necessary to successfully submit your I-20 documentation. We also, work with a series of, we have a global ambassadors, student ambassador program. So we try to connect students from similar countries or similar regions so that they can get sort of the firsthand perspective of what it's like to make that transition. We try to pair them up with alumni. We have an alumni mentor program as well. And these are typically students that have been, 3 to 5 years out of grad school. And so that gives the incoming student or a candidate or an applicant the perspective of having gone through that shift, gone through those struggles right after that time period, right after getting their MBA, and then sort of settling into their professional career. And they have all of that insight to share with the students. We already have a very comprehensive academic advising group that works with our students one-on-one. And then of course our fantastic career development office as well that works with students. So, all of this is intertwined. I mean, I think the days of sort of the silos of career services, admissions, and academic services sort of operating in their own spheres, those days are long gone, and everything really overlaps. And it really does take a village to help support these students across their entire experience.
Yeah, as you're mentioning all these different things, I'm thinking, my God, you guys are giving a warm hug to international students who come. So, Catherine, how about at your school?
Yeah, it's very similar. And I'd like to point out, we wouldn't give them a hug. We'd give them like a wave from far away, 6 feet away.
That's right. Hugs are not permitted right now,
no
even
hugs
with
right
masks.
Now. But yeah, we do very similar things. All of our offices will reach out to the students directly. So International Student Services, our Center for Career Development, our academic advisors, our current students, everyone will be reached out by a current student, a faculty member, also some alumni. We want to make sure that they feel that their questions are being answered and that they're welcomed to the Babson community. We also host a number of webinars with all the partners together. So if there's somebody who wants kind of a one-stop shopping opportunity, we try to give that to them as well. And also our current students have a club called the Partners Club, and they'll reach out to students as well and say, hey, if you're coming with someone and they want to talk to us, but what the experience could be like for them, we try to reach out to them as well to make them feel included in our community, because we're all one Babson. So we want to take care of everybody if we can.
Right. Now, Amanda, how do you help ease the cultural transition into the U.S. and higher education here?
Absolutely. Well, very well said by my colleagues, Catherine and Lawrence, but I'll add maybe a little spin on what we offer. Excuse me. Here at William and Mary, we actually have an executive coaching and mentorship program called the Executive Partner Network. And so all of our students are paired with a personal coach to take them through their 2-year journey. These executives are retired and semi-retired and all living here in the Williamsburg community. So they're a great introduction to Western business culture, and they're a wonderful resource as our global students are working on some of the soft skill development like communication, managing teams, developing a leadership style. So the EPs are really that first interaction with the United States, and they are a very warm welcome to the Williamsburg community and to William and Mary.
Right. And Allison, at Duke, of course, you have a very big stake in China with Duke University's campus there. One of the few U.S. schools that have actually established a campus in China. So there's no doubt of the school, the university's global intent. In fact, how do you help international students make the adjustment?
Yeah, so I think what you're referencing, just for the benefit of others, we do have a master's in management studies, Duke Kunshan University. So Duke has a physical facility in Kunshan where our one-year master's students spend half of their year in Durham and half of the year in China. And it does, I think, help to just develop those communication lines, those relationships, to just give us greater access within the Chinese economy to have students over there and things like that. So that is a full program for students that are sort of our pre-experienced masters. But for all of our students, we have, in addition to what Lawrence and Catherine were saying too, the student clubs that will host events. You'll have the student ambassadors. We also have something called Business Communications and Culture, which is a 2-week class that happens before the first term begins. And that is for our international students to come in and just, one, practice what it's like to be in an American classroom, of cold calling, what that means, and case prep and things like that. Practicing your language skills, how to write a paper, what's expected of you as a team member. Also, where do you get a driver's license? How do you do that? How do you sign a lease? Those kinds of things. So it's very practical skills as well as classroom based. And that really is kind of caps what happens from the moment you're admitted, of connecting with students, connecting with alumni, connecting with our international programs office and the career management center and all those things. So I think you'll find at all of our programs, it is a very big virtual hug of bringing you in and making sure that you're comfortable and really are set up for success and supported throughout your entire time.
Yeah, and I should point out that all of these schools have dispersed alumni networks where you have graduates in every far-flung location in the world, and all of you folks would help an applicant basically connect with the alums who could tell you firsthand what it was like to attend the program and what challenges they encountered to help ease the way. So now, in a STEM designated track, does that mean I have to sacrifice anything in terms of soft skills, leadership development, professional development? Amanda?
No, not at all. There is no sacrifice. I think the way a candidate should look at a program is that your first start in an MBA is typically a very rigorous MBA core. And I know all of my partners on the call today, we do spend a lot of time emphasizing the leadership development, communication skills, working in a team dynamic. None of that is sacrificed. And I know I shared a lot of programming code and technology at the beginning, but a lot of that material really comes into play as a candidate would get further along in their specialization in perhaps the second year. We all also offer the experiential learning, which is so important to your education, through modalities like a corporate field consultancy, utilizing the Entrepreneurship Center. There are so many resources that will complement that very STEM focused portion of your specialization. Nothing is sacrificed.
I'm assuming that's true across the board. Lawrence?
Yeah, I agree with Amanda. Nothing is sacrificed at all. I mean, this is a great opportunity. Actually, I think it's even better to really understand that harmony between what we traditionally call the hard skills and the soft skills. So absolutely nothing is sacrificed. And one of the things, I've been doing this a long time, is to as we've integrated more STEM, and just to be clear, even though we have STEM designations in our MBA program, we already give all MBA students, whether they're doing STEM designation or not, we give them a baseline of sort of data and analytics, data analytics for managers. So it's been great to see over the last couple of years as we've integrated this data and this analytics into the fabric of who we are, to see those skills showcased in their student consulting projects, their field studies. This year we had to do, instead of taking our full-time MBAs down to South America to do student consulting projects, we did those same consulting projects virtually. And so that was another layer of complexity that the students had to manage through, and that only made them stronger. I think this year's class, has a dimension that the other classes didn't have. So yeah, absolutely not a sacrifice of anything. In fact, I think it does nothing but enhance the overall experience.
Yes. Allison, at Duke, what kind of approach do you take to leadership development?
I mean, it's core and central to what we do. We have a a pre-term that starts really in between that business communications and culture and the first term, where we give these foundational classes that are in entrepreneurial mindset, technology, and transformation in business, and entrepreneurial mindset. And those three sort of set the stage for how you approach all of your other subjects, so that you always have, even if you're not a true entrepreneur, for example, that you have that mindset of finding opportunities and delivering on challenges and things like that. So the leadership part is very, very ingrained, and is going to be consistent throughout the program, whether you're following the STEM designation or not. Management communication classes, there are leadership classes, there are research centers. At Duke, we have the Coach K Center of Leadership and Ethics, and students can be career fellows and Cole fellows and all sorts of different leadership roles. So the student clubs play a big part in the leadership, and we really are looking for students who want to be engaged in that, who want to have an active role and have an impact while we're here. And that's where you really practice those leadership skills, is in the moment, in leading your peers, in talking with recruiters and outside speakers and things like that. So there's not going to be a day you're at business school that you're not developing your leadership and teamwork skills.
Right. And Catherine, obviously Babson is known and differentiated for inculcating an entrepreneurial mindset in its students and graduates. Where does leadership dovetail into entrepreneurship?
Yeah, it's a major part of it. You're right, entrepreneurship is what we talk about pretty much 24/7 at Babson. It is what we focus on. But leadership is part of that. You can't be an entrepreneur without being a good leader. So much like my colleagues, leadership is built into every core class that we have. Even in our STEM courses, you're going to still be talking about leadership as part of that as well. Because even if you're working in finance or analytics or any of those STEM subjects, you need to know how to lead. And we'll make sure that that's part of it as well. We do a lot of experiential learning. You'll lead teams, you'll work with different companies as well. And we make sure you have those opportunities to lead Babson, saying, obviously I've learned how to have an entrepreneurial mindset, but I've also learned how to be a real leader and make change in times when change is really hard.
And I'll say, I think, applicants or people who are considering a graduate education in business, one of the underappreciated aspects of the experience is all the professional development that occurs. Sure, you're going to get accounting, you're going to get marketing, finance, strategy, operations, but what more than anything else, you're going to be a better person, because every one of us has rough edges that need to be sanded down. And I think a really good MBA program does that. And that's a big difference between and among any of the other disciplines. Believe me, if you major in computer science or you major in environmental studies, you're not going to get professional development. It's unique, and it's part of management education, and it's an incredibly important part, because a lot of times your effectiveness in the world of work is a function of your ability to get along with others, to lead without being bossy, to be collaborative, to present well and effectively in a persuasive fashion. And these are all parts of the professional development that occurs, no matter whether you're in a STEM designated track or not. And I think that's an important piece of the puzzle. Now, one of the things I really love to do when it's a non-pandemic time is to visit a campus, sit down and watch a class as a fly on a wall, go out for a beer with a bunch of students at night in a local bar, and I'll ask them, we'll be sitting around sipping our beers, and I'll say, what are the three things that when you leave this program will stay with you for a lifetime? Amanda, what are the three things?
Well, it sounds like you've been to one of the local delis here in Williamsburg, Virginia, but that would be a very easy reply. Our students would fondly remember their executive partner coach, their faculty, and then also they always remark on the diversity of their classmates, the student body. We're not a cookie cutter MBA program here at William and Mary, and that is one of the remarks I always hear, is that celebration of diversity.
Yeah, I like that. And I like the connection to executive coaches and faculty. Having accessible and responsive faculty is a big and important part, and having a sponsor, a mentor who is truly invested in your future and your present can make a very big difference. Lawrence, what are the three big things at Fordham?
Yeah, it's similar to what Amanda said. I think community is something that will resonate well with them, whether that's the relationships they built with their peers or the relationships they built with the faculty and the staff and the alumni, et cetera. I think the other part of this is also, we're a Jesuit school, and so business with purpose is something that sort of fuels who we are. And it really does touch the students in sort of everything that they do. So that sense of doing good and business with purpose is something they will walk away with as well. And we're very fortunate to be smack dab in the middle of New York City. One of our mantras is, Fordham may be our university, but New York is my campus. And so really walking away from their experience at Fordham and the Gabelli School, knowing how that interplay between New York City and their graduate management education, those are really the three things that they would walk away with.
All right. And at Fuqua, Allison, what are the three magical things that I will remember when I'm, attending my alumni party from 25 years later? What are the three magical things?
Yeah, I think the number one thing you're always going to hear from a Fuqua student is Team Fuqua, and it is our phrase, it is our rallying cry. It is not a marketing slogan, it is who we are, and that is the idea that everyone here is in it for the person next to them as well as themselves. It is a spirit of collaboration. It is a desire to bring others with you, to celebrate others' successes. It's the kind of thing where you come to campus to visit and somebody will say, hey, I haven't seen you before. You new? Can I help you find something? Can I help you go somewhere? And those bonds persist. You'll never be alone in a city because you can find another Fuqua alum, and those bonds are just absolutely paramount, I would say. Second, this is something that our dean has spoken about, and it's this idea that our students have IQ, EQ, and DQ. So intelligence, emotional intelligence, and the decency quotient. And that is, they're not just really smart, motivated people, they're good people. These are people who want to change their communities for the better, and that happens again here and outside, and those two are obviously very intertwined. And the third thing I would say is, at Fuqua it really is a choose your own adventure. It's a very, very flexible curriculum. Even with the STEM designation, the menu of options that you have to choose from to make this MBA experience exactly what you want it to be, combining certificates and concentrations to go very deep or to stay very broad, gives you so many options at graduation and throughout the lifetime of your career, that I think that is a really crucial part as well.
And I'll just underline some of that. I've spoken to a lot of Fuqua students over the years, and here's what they'll tell me. They'll tell me, this whole Team Fuqua thing, well, we came here, we thought it was a little bit of PR, but guess what? It's real.
Yes.
It's real.
I hear that all the time, all the time. It is real.
Yeah. And DQ really doesn't stand for Dairy Queen at Duke. It does stand for decency. And if anything, we've learned in the United States how important it is to be decent in recent years here.
Sure.
Catherine, your three things at Babson.
Of course. So number one, it's funny because I've asked our students this multiple times. More than anything, it's the Babson entrepreneurial mindset, more than anything. It is the ability to see a problem, find a solution quickly, and more importantly, take action immediately. I've talked to a lot of students actually during the pandemic who've said that they've had the ability to survive during a really difficult time because they really learned how to live and thrive in that gray area. Our students talk about failure a lot, which was kind of sad at first, but for them, it was more of, what do I do after failure? What happens when things don't go my way? And Babson really trains you to think outside the box and think about different solutions to your problems. So more than anything, it's that Babson entrepreneurial mindset. After that, I would say probably the community, because obviously faculty and current students, we're very collaborative. We're a small school, everybody knows each other. But because of that, the faculty are often on the board of someone's company when they start it. They go golfing together. They're lifelong network people. Our students start companies together. They're each other's godparents for their kids. It's a very close community, and much like Duke, we aren't really competitive against each other. We're collaborative. We're competitive against ourselves. We want to get better, but I want to help you get better. And then finally, I'd probably say the opportunities that are afforded to our students. We have a lot of centers on campus, focus a lot on entrepreneurship and finance, and through that, and also social innovation and women entrepreneurial leadership. And because of those centers, our students are really able to focus in on whatever their interest is, and we can help launch them into their careers the next phase. So I love Babson.
Right. Now, we live in a weird time where, you can't really have visitors on your campus. So I want to get from each of you your advice to someone who's interested in your programs, who wants to explore them, who wants to figure out if they're the right fit for your school. How did they do that at a time when you can't really go, touch, feel, and smell a place? So Amanda, how do you do it if you can't go to Williamsburg?
Sure. Thank you, John. And this is very timely. On Thursday evening this week, we're hosting an information session on the business analytics specialization at 8 p.m. via Zoom. So you can get that from our events page on our website at William and Mary. And then our team's approach to admissions is a little different. So you are welcome to find my information on the website as well. And we can set up an individualized phone call, a connection to an alumnus in your region, or a connection to a current student. And then luckily, because we've done so well managing COVID in Williamsburg, we are able to offer limited campus visits, facility tours, and admissions meetings here with all proper PPE and guidance. But we really do welcome the outreach and look forward to working with you through your process.
Great. Now, Fordham, just a few blocks away from Lincoln Center, one of the great cultural icons of the world, with the Met and other wonderful auditoriums and things. How do I get to know more about Fordham?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, similar to what Amanda said and what I'm sure some of the rest of my colleagues will say, we've done a very good job of adapting very quickly in this sort of new world to increase the number of our virtual engagements. So if you just Google Discover Gabelli, you'll actually be taken to our visit site, and we've got a whole series of activities that allow you to engage with us really in any way that you like. If you're interested in doing a one-on-one session with one of our admissions officers, that option is available to you as well. We have sneak peek, what we call them interactive class experiences, which gives prospective students a sampling of what it's like to sit in one of our classrooms. We have several of those going on each semester. We have your information sessions. We have a series of standalone events. We have speaker series. So we really did open, COVID has allowed us to open the doors much wider to give students a peek inside that they might not have gotten had they been doing this in person. So I'm really excited about what our admissions team has pulled off and what our partners on campus have pulled off to allow people to have a proxy for coming in person or meeting in person on the road. So discover Gabelli and it'll take you to where you need to go.
Great. And Catherine, I'm assuming I can't fly into the airport in Boston and come on over to your beautiful pastoral campus. So how can I meet you virtually?
Yes, don't fly into Logan right now. So we're in Wellesley. Our campus is closed to people who aren't current students because we really want to protect them and give them the space they need. So everything, like my colleagues, has gone online. But actually, I do think it's been a bit of an opportunity for us because we have now been able to invite interested students to things that they weren't able to do before. So we do a series of events called Babson Connect every month, where an alumni will talk about a specific topic, or some entrepreneurs and residents of ours are going to do a topic. Actually, next week, I believe, Pitbull and Ellie McPherson are talking about being entrepreneurs, and we were able to invite our prospective students to that. So if you want to hear Pitbull talk, come on by. But otherwise, who doesn't? It's Mr. Worldwide. But otherwise, we're doing online open houses. I do one-on-one talks. All my colleagues do at Babson. We have a number of webinars. We allow our students to go to mock classes, but also our actual classes. Our students are in a hybrid format, so those that felt comfortable coming to campus are there. And those that didn't feel comfortable coming to campus and couldn't are not, and they're participating online because we wanted to really respect their safety. So if at this point we are allowing prospective students to come and sit in on our virtual classes, and they can actually participate that way too. We're trying to be as transparent as we can and come to our virtual tour as well.
Great. Now, Allison, if I'm interested in Fuqua, can I attend one of the online classes and try it out?
We do have options. So we, like everybody, have moved online. We've got close to 300 virtual events that we've done, which includes a virtual campus visit, where you can sign up for any number of different activities, panels, and things like that. We're also in the hybrid format, so some people are in person and some people are online, so you can visit a class. This Thursday and Friday, we actually have an International Applicant Symposium for people that are international students looking to apply to Fuqua. And I think what we've really tried to incorporate this year, aside from sort of our traditional information sessions, are smaller interactive events where there's an application workshop and you get a chance to go to a small group and ask specific questions. We have office hours that you can sign up for to meet with somebody at the admissions committee. We have student ambassadors, alumni ambassadors. You can reach out to anybody on LinkedIn who says they went to Fuqua. They'll probably respond to you very, very quickly. So lots of opportunities there. And, it's been interesting this year to see, I think, just the accessibility that you don't have to be in New York or Chicago or LA. Like, our attendance at our virtual events is way, way up. And we're seeing a lot more people who have come to 7, 8, 9 different virtual events as a part of their process. So, and we try to offer different things. So each time you come to something, you're getting something a little bit different. So the opportunities are definitely there. And the community is very, very open to reaching out and to connecting on by phone, email, or Zoom too. Because we can't get enough Zoom time, right?
That's, oh boy. Yes. But you're right. In some ways, it's because of all the different examples of trying to reach out virtually, it may in fact be easier than ever to visit a campus virtually, to speak to students, to be a fly on a wall in a class than ever before, particularly if you're an international student, where it's very hard to come to the US even in normal times, because it's a big deal logistically. So this may in fact be the best time of all to determine if a school and a program is the right fit for you. So it's been a real pleasure. Hey, thank you so much for joining us. I've had a good time. I think we've put a lot of great information out there for people. So Amanda, Lawrence, Catherine, and Allison, thank you so much. Stay safe and healthy.
Thank you for having
Thank
us.
you,
Thank you
John.
so much.